Welcome to Sound Leadership with DJ, the podcast that dives deep into the world of leadership. If you're passionate about learning from the brightest minds in the field, you're in the right place. In each episode, we embark on an inspiring journey alongside successful leaders, unraveling the secrets behind their accomplishments from their early beginnings to their current roles. We'll explore the unique paths they've traveled to reach their present status. We'll dive into their biggest challenges and pivotal lessons and gain invaluable tips from inspiring leaders. Today, on our season finale of season 1 of Sound Leadership with DJ, I am thrilled to introduce Dr. Danielle McCamey, a trailblazer with nearly 2 decades, of nursing experience and over a decade as a acute care nurse practitioner. Dr. McCamey's journey is inspiring, having traveled through diverse specialties from peri-anesthesia to palliative and critical care. Dr. McCamey serves as the Associate Dean for Clinical Practice and Relationships and an Associate Professor at the prestigious Johns Hopkins School of Nursing, while continuing to practice in surgical critical care. But that's just the tip of the iceberg for Dr. McCamey. See, she holds several certifications, including her DEI in the Workplace Certificate from University of South Florida and a nonprofit management executive certification from Georgetown University. Dr. McCamey's accolades go beyond her educational pursuits. See, Dr. McCamey was just recently inducted as a fellow in the American College of Chest Physicians. See, her role as a DNP is fascinating. And she's here to share her enlightening journey on becoming a DNP, what a DNP means, and the leadership role of a DNP. But what truly sets Dr. McCamey apart is her visionary leadership style. See, when she comes on screen, you're going to see it. She is the founder, the CEO, and the president of DNPs of Color, a 501c3 nonprofit, nationally recognized nonprofit that is dedicated to building a community for nurses of color through networking, mentorship, and advocacy. DNPs of Color's goal is to increase diversity in the doctoral studies, clinical practice, and in leadership. Additionally, she has co-created and chairs the Doctoral Nurse Collaborative, a group that unites DNPs and PhD-prepared nurses through her current healthcare system. See, throughout her remarkable career, she has consistently mentored students in undergraduate and graduate studies and advised DNP students' projects. She has also precepted students in a clinical practice setting. Her expertise in diversity, equity, and inclusion in palliative care has made her a sought-after national speaker. Dr. McCamey is a true thought leader, featured in interviews and podcasts, sharing her insights on creating communities that foster innovation, collaboration, transformational care, and advancing the nursing practice. Today, we are fortunate to have Dr. McCamey on this podcast. But before I bring her out, I got to tell you something. This is, once again, the final episode of Season 1 of Sound Leadership with DJ. We are excited to have you join us for this exciting episode. And we want you to stay connected with us. And you can do so by liking our social media pages. You can like us on LinkedIn and YouTube at Sound Leadership with DJ, where we share updated information on episodes such as this one's and behind the scenes glimpses on episodes just like this one. We also want you to follow us on your favorite podcast platforms. That includes Apple Music, Alexa, iHeart, and so much more. Simply search Sound Leadership with DJ. Once you're there, hit that subscribe button to never miss an episode. Now it's time for you to buckle up and be prepared to be inspired, motivated, and empowered to become your best self. Let's dive into this episode together. Welcome, Dr. McCamey. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Hey, I am fabulous. You are here. You are fresh off the conference of DNPs of Color. So I don't know if I'm the first one after, but I'm going to claim it.
Yes.
I'm going to claim it. So, as I tell people, right, I did that introduction, but it holds no candle to who you are. I know you humbly just placed doctor in front of your name, but there's so many accolades after your name. So can you tell us who Dr. McCamey is?
Yes, Dr. McCamey, I always say my claim to fame is I build communities that create opportunities. And with my work with DNPs of Color, I'm doing such that. Beyond that, I'm also an acute care nurse practitioner. I still practice in surgical critical care. And I love the thrill and the chills and the dynamic nature of critical care. I can't quite give that up. And I'm also serving as new title now, Assistant Dean for Strategic Partnerships, to leverage some of my opportunities to connect with so many different people to do some great work.
Wow. So you say new title. So what was your previous title, and what is this new role that you're embarking upon?
So my previous title was Assistant Dean for Clinical Practice and Relationships. And so ended up switching over to focusing on strategic partnerships because of my vast network and then ability to connect with people and get them to follow a mission and get some real work done. So really excited to be in this space to really leverage my skills and my gifts.
Wow. And your gifts are definitely oozing out, right? As I've watched you on LinkedIn, I've watched you network, and I've watched people just praise you on LinkedIn, and I've done some research myself. So, I know you graduated from some prestigious universities.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't always a DNP. So talk to us about that journey to becoming a DNP.
Yeah, so the pursuit of my DNP was, I was not a believer in the DNP degree. I had been in my career as a master prepared acute care nurse practitioner and totally enjoying my practice, operating at the top of my scope. And I felt like the DNP just didn't make sense. I was in that scope of folks that felt like going back to school to get into debt to not make any additional money just doesn't make sense. And
Understand.
so I ended up connecting with a mentor on a night shift. It was a horrible night shift in the ICU, and he's like, "You need to go back and get your DNP." And so I thought about it, and then ended up getting a scholarship. And I said, "Well, who am I to deny this school to pay for me to go back to get my DNP?" So I went.
Wow, that's amazing, because I think, to your point, there's so many nurses out there. There's so many master prepared nurses, bachelor prepared nurses out there that don't believe in going back to the next level, because sometimes there's not a pay increase. I mean, we can look at that from associates to a bachelor's degree level, or bachelor's to a master's degree level. Unless you have a certificate behind your name, such as F&P or clinical nurse specialist,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes there's not financial gain attached to it. But what you
Yes.
stated is, you went back, somebody, paid for you to go back. But besides the financial gain, what have you've learned as you become a DNP, right? What was that main difference from becoming an MSN who's operating at the top of scope, who's a
Mm-hmm.
fellow, who's, is
Mm-hmm.
acute care nurse practitioner? What have you learned and gained as a DNP?
The way the structure of nursing is, having your terminal degree allows you access to different networks and different levels within the nursing profession. And so it seemed like once I crossed that threshold of the graduation day and got my DNP degree, my career grew exponentially, my network grew exponentially, and the opportunities to speak and take advantage of different opportunities to advance in a different way. One case in point, me being an assistant dean at Johns Hopkins School of Nursing. Like, I think that I would never
Yes.
have had that opportunity without having my DNP.
Wow. I think that's amazing. You talk about having opportunities. I think that's the key thing, right? As we continue to advance ourselves, we will gain those opportunities. And
Mhm.
sometimes those opportunities are yet to be seen, such as the role you just transitioned into. You may
Yes.
not have had a shot for that role had you
Mhm.
not had your DNP. So
Mhm.
kudos to you. I think that is amazing. As we talk about leadership and dive into the point of the podcast, leadership, what does leadership mean to you? What is an effective leader?
For me, leadership is one that is strictly to be of service. I have a skill to inspire and motivate people to do and be their best. And once they see that potential and grasp hold of it, me as the leader is to be of service to help build them up to continue to pursue their mission, their passion, and ultimately be the next leader.
Wow. And how did you find out that you had that skill, right? Because I imagine that wasn't something that you just rolled out of bed and said, you know what, I'm going to be great today. I'm going to inspire and motivate others. So what was your leadership journey like?
You know, the leadership pieces, I would say, come in pieces, because as you evolve as a person and have a understanding of your own personal values, your own personal morals, your own personal mission, those leadership pieces begin to manifest and coalesce into the leader. And so for me, I've always had leadership qualities in taking charge of circumstances, or I've always had the ability to see potential in people and inspire them to want to do work. And so it just kind of happened upon me, and people gave it a term like, you're a leader. And so
Yes.
internalizing that and seeing what your leader is and how I've evolved in my own leadership and its impact has definitely come with time, experience, and lots of mentorship.
Yeah, I think you hit a lot of things. You talked about experience, you talked about mentorship, but I want to go back to something that you said early on, right? You believe leadership is servant leadership, but
Mhm.
you know, to the point, right? We have certain buzzwords that are really hot right now, and DEI is one. We'll talk about that. That's really hot right now. Servant leadership is hot right now, but what actually is servant leadership? You mentioned about supporting others and empowering them, but you
Mhm.
know, when you dive deep into it, what is servant leadership, and how do one recognize servant leadership? Because I think that we've all worked in leadership. There's some leaders who say I'm a servant leader, but it's about me, right? I'm gonna serve you as long as my needs are met, right? So,
Yes.
what is servant leadership?
Servant leadership, I think that it's definitely an acquired skill, essentially, because you have to be resolute in your own self, your own mission, and be confident to be able to collaborate, share power, and also empower others. So that means sometimes there's opportunities for you to step up, but then there's opportunities for you to step back and allow others to be of service. And so for me, I'm always telling my team, I have the title, I have the position, but I'm so mission focused that I understand that it takes all of us to contribute our own expertise and how I can be of service so that you can be equipped and feel comfortable and confident to do your best work so you can fulfill your pieces of the ultimate mission that we're all agreeing to pursue.
I think it's key, and something that you mentioned is the mission, right? As a leader, we should have a strong understanding of our mission,
Yes.
our goals, right? Because if we're operating without a mission statement, without goals, we're kind
Mhm.
of just festering in the wind.
Yep.
We're kind of just out there. So, how do you empower people to, you know, stand up for what they believe in, and also, challenge you at the right time to say, hey, we're running into a brick wall, but still remain the leader? Because I think that's a skill set that's um, very important for leadership, right? We have to empower our team to speak up when the time is right. So, how do you
Mhm.
do that?
Oh man, like I said, I have this gift of discernment. I also have this gift of intuition, and then I have this gift of rapidly developing trust and rapport with people. And so for me, my teams always praise me because I allow them to take up the space to be and to do, and I also show gratitude and appreciation for the value that they contribute. So it's really centering people's humanness and their human experience and how that shows up in pushing forward in the mission in whatever circumstance we're in. So that's just my viewpoint and kind of how I operate is centering the person, centering their mission, and finding ways that aligns with the ultimate mission that we're all in agreement with in whatever circumstance that we're together.
Wow, I think that's amazing, and once again, for the viewers that are just joining us, we're diving deep into leadership with Dr. McCamey, and what she shared with us is her views on servant leadership and how it impacts the team, how she's empowers the team, and I think we both agree on this. As a leader, we should be serving our team. We should be empowering our team. But as we talk about some of the successes in leadership, and we will get to your successes in leaderships, we can't talk about it without some of the fails and some of the things we've learned from our mistakes in the leadership. So, do you have some time that maybe you've implemented a strategic decision, or you did something and you was like, that wasn't my best self as a leader? And what did you learn from that?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be failures. And but those are the greatest lessons. That's when you get the opportunity to actually pause and reflect and get feedback, and hopefully it didn't end in a detrimental outcome or harm to others. And so when I think about my different hats that I wear, as a critical care nurse practitioner, you got to be spot on with your decision
Wow.
making.
Wow.
But as a dean, there's some time to kind of think through things. But if there is some failures, you can course correct without any damages.
You wear many hats, right? And I think that's what's amazing. Like you said, how you act as a leader, as a critical care nurse practitioner is different than how you act as a leader, as an educator. And I think it's important to note that, your leadership fluctuate, right? And how you lead fluctuate, and how you interact with others fluctuate. And I think, what you're hitting around to is, what's that buzzword? Intelligence,
Emotional
knowing.
intelligence.
Yes. So talk to us about that as a leader. What role does emotional intelligence have in leadership?
Oh my gosh. In order to be an impactful and effective leader, your emotional intelligence has to be on point. And I think that for me, being a Black woman, society has groomed, I'll say for me, to have an excellent emotional intelligence, because we have been in a lot of scenarios where you have to know how to read the room and assess who's who and who's trustworthy and who's, what role do they play in the ultimate plan or picture that you're viewing. And so having a high emotional intelligence, I feel like, is a huge part of my keys to success and being an effective leader, is having that understanding of people, circumstances, how to react, how to interact, and how to respond.
I think that's amazing, and you talked about emotional intelligence as reading the rooms and things, but for some that may be a new term for them. So,
Mm.
when we talk about emotional intelligence, you mentioned it's being able to read the room, being able to learn how to respond. As a leader, how do you utilize emotional intelligence to motivate, inspire your team? How do you integrate that?
So the emotional intelligence and just understanding people, where they are, how they show up, what are some of the lived experience that they bring to the workplace or to the project or to the unit, and utilizing those pieces as an opportunity to connect and an opportunity to motivate and an opportunity to bring them into the fold. And so for me, I'm always trying to bring people in. There's always room at this table. Bring a seat. We got plenty of seats.
That is inspirational. There's always room at the table because for many they feel like there's not a seat at the table. They feel
Yes.
like they can't make a difference. They feel like they can't advocate on behalf of themselves, behalf of the
Mhm.
patients, behalf of anything, right? So what does it mean to bring a seat at the table, and how are you pushing the envelope so more people can come to the table?
DNPs of Color is literally pushing the envelope to bring more people at the table. And we're leveraging this opportunity to create an inclusive space within nursing, particularly in doctoral nursing practice. And how we're doing that is we're highlighting their accolades, we're highlighting their scholarship, we're validating their worth, we're bringing opportunities for them to learn more, to deepen their scholarship. And so I always say there's always room at the table, because there's so much work that needs to be done that requires all hands on deck. So I need you to have a seat at this table so you can eat, get the understanding of the mission, and go out and get this work done.
I love it. I love it. So when you say to seat at the table, do I have to be a leader to come to your table and eat?
I feel like, see, that's the thing. I want to just spend some time about the term leader, because I feel like
Yes.
we've socialized it so much that it makes it exclusionary.
Yes.
Everyone has the ability to be a leader that fits in the context of their lived experience, their skills, and also the place and space that they occupy. People are always given opportunity to step up or contribute. And so for me, leadership is any way that you can leverage your experiences, your talents, your gifts to contribute to the greater whole, the greater good. You're a leader. There's formal titles, yes, absolutely, but I feel like people, if we shared the understanding that leadership is accessible to everyone, and everyone has these skills and capabilities because of their lived experience and their ability to contribute to the greater mission, the greater whole. We're all leaders. It's just in different contexts and different circumstances.
I think that's a good call out, and what's interesting is when I talk to people and they say, well, I'm not a leader, I can't be a leader. And I say, look, everybody's a leader. At some point in life, we all have had to lead. If you're
Yeah,
if you're a mom, dad, you've led the
yeah,
family, right? If
yes,
you're a school bus driver, you done drove the kids to school and you got them there safely, you led
exactly.
them there. So when we think about leadership, I think to your point, it's not always this big prestigious title.
Yeah,
It's influencing people to get the
yes,
job done
yes,
effectively, efficiently, and safely, hopefully.
yes.
So, I thank you for calling that out. And you talk about DNPs of color, and you talk about
Mm.
your journey as going into a DNP. I must ask, why DNP over PhD, and what are the differences?
This is like the $1 million question. Everyone always asks this, and of course, I'm biased to the DMP. But when the DMP was first developed, the vision was for it to be the entry level into advanced practice, specifically for nurse practitioners. And over the years, it's evolved to include all nursing professionals, so RNs, masters prepared, and not just nurse practitioners. So now it is a clinical practice doctorate where you are given education, experience, and skills to deepen your scholarly knowledge in nursing practice. And then there's the PhD, which is historically the nursing scientist terminal degree, where nurses that pursue PhD are generating new knowledge, new science that's being applied into nursing practice. And so the idea is that the PhDs generate the new knowledge, the DNP prepared nurses translate it into the evidence. But the way that it's evolving and the way that I want it
Mhm.
to continue to evolve, being the leader of a DNP facing organization, is that we make DNP prepared nurses also have access to generating new nursing science,
Wow.
because our science is called translational science, where we're translating the evidence into practice. And what we're finding is, historically and traditionally, science that's developed by PhDs takes upward 17 years plus to get into clinical practice. Can you imagine 17-year-old evidence being practiced on you today?
Wow.
That 17-year-old evidence is probably baked in racism and
Yeah.
antiquated practices that doesn't even incorporate the technologies that we have of today. So
Wow.
this is why I'm always on my soapbox of equipping DNP prepared nurses to do more research oriented
Yes.
initiatives, because we're in practice a lot of times, so we understand the current climate of practice
Yes.
and the evidence available, and we see the gaps that we can
Yes.
put together things to close those gaps.
What's interesting is exactly what you stated, right? 17 years to get to practice. And the way technology is rolling, we don't have 17 years. The
Hello?
iPhone 15 is old. They talking about the 16 already.
Okay.
And it just came out last week.
That
So
part.
I can't imagine,
Oh, yes.
starting to implement some nursing interventions that is 17 years old.
Yes.
And to your point, baked in racism and whatever else it was cooked with.
Yes.
So if we talk about research and
Mhm.
getting more doctor prepared nurses of color into the field, how
Yeah.
can we do that? How do we motivate, inspire others to get into the field? I think your organization, DNPs of Color, is
Mhm.
really leading the pathway. Other organizations as well, but I always tell people, and I'll let you share your views on. I always tell people, in nursing, growing up, I don't really remember seeing a lot of people that look like me. I
Mhm.
definitely didn't see males. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
just a that's just it's anomaly to see them. And even now, as I've entered into the field of nursing, males are becoming more and more frequent, but it's
Yes.
still a rarity. And I'll share this. This is the running joke. Any hospital I'm working at or any facility I'm at, they always think I'm the other one. They never see us at the same time, so they think we're the same. So, how do we get more people of color into healthcare fields, healthcare organizations? Not just nursing, but all things, right? We need representation in
Absolutely.
every level, every granular level. How can we do that?
Yeah, so there's a lot of structures within nursing that need to be dismantled. And I guess the easiest, I don't want to say the easiest way, but a strategy to entertain is really supporting organizations that are doing the work to support nurses of color success in nursing, like DNPs of Color, like Diversity CRNA, like National Black Nurses Association, because we're offering the keys to success in nursing. We're offering mentorship opportunities, we're offering network, and we're offering advocacy opportunities. And for me, these are the key ingredients for nurses' success and for them to also be sustained throughout the nursing profession, because nursing is hard. The climate of nursing is extremely difficult. There's so many different things that post-COVID that unearthed that had been already hovering at the surface level, and now everything is just out. And so being a nurse right now is tough. So you need mentors, you need a network, and you need advocacy to be successful. So for me, because our organizations are creating programming and initiatives that understand the lived experience and understand how that lived experience shows up in how we practice, and how it shows up in how we learn, and how it shows up how we teach and take in information, we're able to support those individuals to their success. And sometimes going to predominantly white institutions, they don't have that understanding of these communities of color to support their success without them having a traumatic experience, if I'm being honest. So
Yeah, you know what? I love and I love the honesty. You talk about and I'll go back a little earlier. You talk about interventions that take 17 years to get here, and now we're here where we have your organization
yeah.
that's supporting people of color. So when we talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, you have a certificate in that, and you're sought after to speak on that. What role or what should we know about DEI in healthcare? How does that impact me? How does that impact the viewer listening? How does DEI impact, the change of healthcare, the change of culture, the change of transformational healthcare?
Yeah, so DI is under a lot of fire right now. But no matter how much fire it's under, it still doesn't change the literature that supports that when you have diverse providers taking care of anyone, that it increases patient care outcomes. It decreases patient morbidity and mortality. Communities of color are more likely to follow through with their patient care treatments and have more trust with their providers if they have ones that look like them.
I think that's amazing. And Dr. Grant, the past president of the ANA, he kind of,
Yes.
echoed that same thing on
Yeah.
this podcast when we talked about DE and I. How
Mm.
did you get into it, right? Once again, as I always tell people, you didn't just roll out of bed and say, you know what, I think I want to be a champion for DE and I. So did you have a story or something that happened to you that was like, look, we need to push this needle? What made you really, launch? What made you get into it, and then subsequently, right, launch DNPs of Color, which is really, a space in that avenue. What made you do that?
I mean, I think just being a Black woman in a lot of white spaces, because of being highly educated and in a white profession, you're kind of charged with it, whether you want to be charged with it or not. You
Yes.
become essentially the cultural ambassador, or people look to you because you're the only one in the room like, well, what's up with them Black folks rioting in Ferguson? So what's up with this Black patient that I have, and they keep saying this one term that I don't understand. And why is this Black woman patting her braids like she done lost her mind? I'm like, oh Lord.
What's interesting, right? And is I saw it early on as an LPN. I didn't know the term DE&I, but I remember going out with my trainer, and I was an LPN, and this was a nurse who had years of experience, and I remember going out, and she was talking to this patient about diabetes, and he didn't understand it. He wasn't getting it, but I
Oh,
interjected and said, "Has anybody talked to you about the sugars?"
there you go.
Oh, A light went off in his head. Yeah, I know
See?
about the sugars. I check it every day.
See? Case in
That's
point.
diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? Being able to speak to a patient on their level and provide them the education that works for them. You could have said diabetes to you blue in the face. I've dealt with patients who they don't call it hypertension or high blood pressure.
Yeah.
They have other code names for it. I can't eat salt. The doctor keeps saying I can't eat salt. I got to use this product called Mrs. Dash. That's what I got to do. I can't eat the salt. So I think that DE&I plays a position, and your organization is really trying to move that forward.
Yeah.
How does DE&I integrate into our nursing schools to help expand that? What role does DE&I play in that?
Well, I know at my particular institution, we're really taking a deep dive and looking at faculty's preparedness with
Yes.
being able to understand the terms beyond just spewing health equity and saying diversity, equity, inclusion, but actually talking about white supremacy and power and privilege. And so really doing the work to unpack a lot of things so that people can actually see it. Because when you come from a place of privilege, you don't see the perspectives or the experiences of those that have been historically racialized, disenfranchised, and oppressed. So when we're able to get education with the nursing faculty, they're able to teach effectively. And to be honest, the students are demanding that from the faculty. They don't want this implicit bias and, all these frou-frou terms and they want to talk about power, privilege, white supremacy, colonialism, and all of this. So it's really challenging us as faculty to meet them where they are because they're pushing it, because they want to act, they want to be equipped, they want to be educated, and they want to feel comfortable to be able to be allies or to be able to advocate for communities of color.
I think it's amazing. And you ended it with advocated communities of color. So I'm going to segue into that. Where is healthcare going? Every time I turn around, and I live in Hawaii, so for me to catch something on the news, it must be global. I see them striking outside. I see us fighting for better wages. I see us fighting for better opportunities. So where's healthcare going? Where's the field of nursing going? And how can DNP prepared nurses help move that needle forward?
I feel like in healthcare, the pandemic really put us at a crossroads. It helped amplify the problems that we have in society, and particularly from my lens, healthcare. And it's allowing us to deal with our stuff, from racism to unfair wages, unfair ratios. And I really feel like ultimately this is kind of like a clearing so that we can really get the issues out on the forefront and start dealing with them and start putting forth some actionable, reasonable steps to start solving some of these problems and closing some of these gaps. Where DNP prepared nurses come in, I love being DNP prepared because we have this duality about us that we're still practicing. A lot of us are still practicing clinicians, so we have an understanding of the current climate of clinical practice. And because of our education has deepened our knowledge around systems, policies, and procedures and how to navigate those spaces so that you can get things done. And because you have your doctorate degree, it puts you at the table where people are making the decisions. So you can implement practice and policy all in real time at one time.
Mic drop. It sets you at the table to move the needle forward. And let's talk about it, right? If we're not at the table, we're on the table. And that's how we got to striking, because we were on the table. And I think that what the pandemic kind of highlighted is, organizations can do more. It's a lot more than just a pizza party. That's, it is not adding bacon to my pizza and saying, now I've heard you. It's really being there, and it takes us as leaders and to come to the table and say, no, this is what we want. As I tell people, right, we're not at the table. Then we got a lot of people in suits making the decisions who don't understand clinical excellence, clinical operations, the work that we need. They're trying to figure out how we can take that bladder scanner, that vein finder. You don't need that extra vent because we're renting that. Right. They're trying to say you don't need. You haven't used it in a week. There's been no patients on a vent.
Right.
So we should send that back. So, you have to have a seat at the table. And we go back to your organization,
Mm,
DNPs of Color, and you've
yeah.
talked about mentorship. You've
Mhm.
talked about, the need for an organization like this. Tell us more about DNPs of Color, because I think as I started when we first started this podcast, you're fresh off a national convention where you had hundreds of people come and support
Yo,
your dream. If nobody's telling you, I'm telling you, you are amazing. But talk
thank
to us
you.
about it.
Yeah, the conference was absolutely amazing. And yes, we just opened up for membership, so please sign up. But the conference was called, we have a theme. It was called Calling All Game Changers and Trailblazers. And that was a call and response piece to really have those that are doing transformative progressive change work in nursing to come to our conference. And we had a whole host of change makers, game changers, and trailblazers there. And we had nearly 300 folks come from coast to coast and even Canada, I just learned, to attend our conference. And one of the special pieces, there are a couple of special pieces around the conference that we centered on. So we are intentional about the space that we occupy. So we decided to have the conference be at the National Museum of the American Indian. Last year, it was at the Maryland Museum of African and African American History in Maryland. And so we like the museum space because the spirit of the ancestors and the artifacts and the history help permeates the atmosphere and also the attendees. And then they get an opportunity to view a museum. And then we also had a mindfulness practitioner that allowed us to center ourselves and to be present in the moment at the conference. And then the practitioner met with each speaker prior to them speaking to help them be grounded and help them be present in the moment, which really created this atmosphere of connection, which was unreal. And so having that atmosphere of connection, just everyone was just primed to receive and also primed to just share and be innovative and creative. And it just created this connection that was just like no other conference. And so a lot of the topics we spoke on were clinical practice, policy things, leadership stuff, academia, and research. We also featured a history panel that was sponsored by Nurses You Should Know, and we had an exclusive interview with Virginia Allen, who is the last Black angel nurse. And the Black angels, for those that don't know, were nurses that filled in the gap when white nurses left Staten Island at the peak of the TB pandemic because they did not want to care for TB patients. So they recruited hundreds of Black nurses from the South to come to Staten Island to take care of these individuals in these sanatoriums, which are just hospitals that were in remote areas, to push through the TB pandemic. And the cure was actually found in Seaview Hospital, where these Black nurses helped contribute to finding the cure. So she's 92 years old. She is absolutely amazing. And we had such an amazing interview with her to share her experience. And she also charged us with some actions to get done, that we need to grasp hold of our power to be more and to do more and to continue the legacy that she built upon, to really fill in those gaps when there's an opportunity to meet those challenges.
Wow. you, you've packed so much in that statement. It is amazing, and people need to know about your organization. So, I've flashed it on the screen multiple times, but how can they reach your organization? And once they get to your organization page, what should they be doing?
Yeah, so first and foremost, you can go to dnpsofcolor.org, which is our website. You can even just Google search us. We're on all major social media platforms, even Pinterest. But the first thing you need to do is hit that membership tab, because we are now open for membership, and we've got membership levels for all people. You don't have to be a DNP to sit with me, is what we always say. And you don't have to be a person of color to also join DNPs of Color. But for those that join that don't necessarily fit, quote unquote, in those categories, there's an understanding that has to be known that the mission and the vision and the goals will always be centered around the experiences and the needs for nurses of color that have their DNP. So if you can get behind that or align with that, you're more than welcome to join us in this space and support us. We're always happy to have those that want to help advance our mission. So go to our website, hit us up on social media, tag us, tweet us. Well, I guess it's X us,
Yeah.
and on LinkedIn as well.
And then how can they follow you? How can they get in contact with you?
Yes, I'm on all major social media platforms as well at Dr. McCamey. So hit me up.
Listen, you see it. You see it in full effect. This is a pleasure to speak with you. A pleasure to pick your
Likewise.
brain on all things leadership. As I've stated, I have been following you for a while. Next year at the convention, I promise I will be there. I am a DNP student, and
Yeah.
I need to be in there with excellence. I need to surround myself with excellence. And,
Yeah.
to your point, right, you get to connect with these people. That's the biggest thing, anything in life, right? Life is about networking. It's about who
Yes.
you know. It's about connecting. And,
Okay.
being in that room with the people of greatness. As I looked at the social media posts that came out, I'm like, I missed that. I miss
Yeah.
that person,
Yeah.
So now, what I'm gonna challenge you on is at some point. I know you're on your third year, but by year 6, we got to have a convention in Hawaii, right?
Oh, say less. Year 6
So
done.
I'll help plan that. Right?
Okay, say less. We got this recorded, right? We recording this thing, right?
We have to have something in Honolulu, Hawaii, or Big Island, or Maui, whatever the case is. I think you said you had 300 some
Done.
people looking for a reason to come to Hawaii. Give them a
Done.
reason.
2026. You heard it first. Honolulu, Hawaii.
Oh,
It's sealed
listen,
to do.
listen, game changer. Doctor, I appreciate you for coming on this podcast. I appreciate you for taking time out of your day.
Absolutely.
As we get ready to close season 1 of Sound Leadership, we are in the Thanksgiving week. We are in the Thanksgiving
Yes.
time. Is there anything that you're thankful for?
Yes. Oh my gosh, so much. But just to keep it concise, I'm just thankful for the community that supports me, that elevates me, that amplifies me, and also for the community that also hates on me. um, that's it.
You
Just
let me know if you want me to edit that one out.
all the things.
I love the realness.
Yes,
Because we use our haters as motivators, right? And
absolutely.
I tell people that all the time. You it's in a song. You're not popping if you don't have any haters. So,
Hey,
you will always have people who dislike you. You have
yes,
to use them as motivators. You have to use them to continue to propel yourself. For the people
yes.
who know, right, and I'll say this as we get ready to close this out. I graduated high school in 2007 with a 1 GPA. I
Mm.
remember my 8th grade teacher. I can't say her name. I'm not trying to get sued, but I went to Longfellow Middle School in Detroit, Michigan, 8th grade math teacher.
Oh,
Um, she told me by the time I was 18, I'd be dead or in someone's penitentiary. And I'll
good
tell you why she
gracious.
said that. I didn't do my homework. I was a bad 8th grade student. I was that. But she said, you need to write 100 times. I would not talk in class. So what Demetrius did, I was being innovative. I was an engineer at that age. I take 4 pencils together and wrote it. And she said, no, see, that's criminal behavior. You're going to be dead in somebody's jail. Instead of saying you being an engineer.
Wow.
she, said,
See?
she said I would be dead in somebody's penitentiary jail. So any chance I get, I shout that out because I could have took that and believed it. That was an
Absolutely.
educator, somebody who had power over me, somebody who was supposed
Mhm.
to be motivating and inspiring me.
Yes.
And instead, I took that and I use it every time. I tell people all the time, 8th grade, Longfellow Middle School, I graduated in 07. You do the math. So I use that as motivation as the guest. They should be using any haters as motivators. That's motivation. If somebody told you can't do it, you do it.
Yep.
When I was told I couldn't get into RN school, I went to LPN school, and then apparently they let you walk right into RN school if you're an
Yeah.
LPN. I don't know how that works, but they let you do it. So thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. I appreciate you for joining us here on Sound Leadership. And I appreciate the guests for watching this explosive episode
Hey.
of Sound Leadership with DJ. Usually I take the guests off the screen as I do the outro. I'm gonna leave you on because I'm loving it. So thank you for joining us here on Sound Leadership with DJ. We hope you gain valuable insights and inspiration from our conversation with Dr. McCamey. If you've enjoyed this episode, we encourage you to like and follow our social media pages for more great content. You can follow us on YouTube and LinkedIn at Sound Leadership with DJ. Also, don't forget to tune into our podcast. Don't forget to tune into this podcast on your favorite platform. That includes Apple Music, Alexa, iHeart, and so much more. Simply search Sound Leadership with DJ and hit that like and subscribe button. This is the final episode, and I will be remiss without doing it again. I put the QR code up there. Visit DNPs of Color. Follow the doc, and remember, leadership is a journey, not a destination. Keep striving to learn and grow, and never give up on your goals. We wish you all the best on your leadership journey, and we look forward to having you join us again soon for more insightful discussions on sound leadership with DJ. I see you next season.